The afternoon of Sunday, the 14th of April, was a gala day in the harbor of Charleston. The sunlight slanted across the roofs of the city, sparkled upon the sea. Deep and rich the harbor always looks in the spring sunshine on bright afternoons. The filmy atmosphere of these latitudes at that time of year makes the sky above the darkening afternoon sea a pale but luminous turquoise. There's a wonderful soft strength in the peaceful brightness of the sun. In such an atmosphere, the harbor was flecked with brilliantly decked craft of every description, all in a flutter of flags and carrying a host of passengers in gala dress. The city swarmed across the water to witness the ceremony of evacuation. Ferry boats did a thriving business carrying passengers to the fort. Anderson withdrew from Sumter shortly after 2 o'clock amid a salute of 50 guns. The Confederates took possession. At 4:30, a new flag was raised above the battered and fire-swept walls. It has never been explained why Jefferson Davis was chosen President of the Confederacy. He did not seek the office and did not wish it. He dreamed of high military command. As a study in the irony of fate, Davis's career is made to the hand of the dramatist. An instinctive soldier, he was driven by circumstances 3 times to renounce the profession of arms for a less congenial civilian life. His final renunciation, which proved to be of the nature of tragedy, was his acceptance of the office of president. Indeed, why the office was given to him seems a mystery. Rhett was a more logical candidate, and when Rhett, early in the lobbying at Montgomery, was set aside as too much of a radical, Toombs seemed for a time the certain choice of the majority. The change and the charge to Davis came suddenly at the last moment. It was puzzling at that time, and it is still puzzling today. Rhett, though doubtless bitterly disappointed, bore himself with the savor of a great gentleman. At the inauguration, it was on Rhett's arm that Davis leaned as he entered the hall of the Confederate Congress. The night before, in a public address, Yancey had said that the man and the hour were met. The story of the Confederacy is filled with dramatic moments, but to the thoughtful observer, few are more dramatic than the conjunction of these 3 men in the inauguration of the Confederate president. Beneath the surface of an apparent unity, they carried like concealed weapons, but points of view that were in deadly antagonism. This antagonism had not revealed itself hitherto. It was destined to reveal itself almost immediately. It went so deep and spread so far that unless we understand it, the Confederate story will be unintelligible. A strange fatality destined all 3 of these great men to despair. Yancey, who was perhaps most directly answerable of the 3 for the existence of the Confederacy, lost influence almost from the moment when his dream became established. Davis was partly responsible, for he promptly sent him out of the country on a bootless English mission. Thereafter, until his death in 1863, Yancey was a waning, overshadowed figure, steadily lapsing into the background. It may be that those critics are right who say he was only an agitator. The day of the mere agitator was gone. Yancey passed rapidly into futile but bitter antagonism to Davis. In this attitude, he was soon to be matched by Ritt. The discontent of the Ritt faction, because their leader was not given the portfolio of the State Department, found immediate voice. But the conclusion drawn by some that Ritt's subsequent course sprang from personal vindictiveness is trifling. He was too large a personality, too well-defined an intellect, to be thus explained. Very probably, Davis made his first great blunder in failing to recognize the Ritt faction, and yet few things are more certain than that the two men, the two factions which they symbolized, could not have formed a permanent alliance. Had Ritt entered the cabinet, he could not have remained in it consistently for any considerable time. The measures in which presently the administration showed its hand were measures in which Ritt could not acquiesce. From the start, he was predestined to his eventual position, the great unveiling genius of the opposition.